So hello sports fans, it's Feature Friday and we're going to try to go through health in 5 minutes and do some setup things that I think you'll be interested in. So, okay, to be honest, it took 7 minutes, so I said a few extra things in there. But hopefully this gives you a really good overview of what health is all about and how it works with Manage. So get your sports watch on and here we go. First thing I want you to do is to go into Manage and find an asset record. And I'm going to go after a particular one here. What I want you to do is open up that asset record, and I want you to make sure that you enter a priority. I want you to enter an installation date, an expected life in years, an estimated end of life, a purchase price, and a replacement cost. Once you're done with that, I want you to add at least 1 meter. And of course, I would like you to update that meter. Just once is fine. You can put in a couple of readings if you would like, but at least have 1 meter on this particular asset record. Then, a very critical step. Make sure you are able to find this asset record or a set of asset records with a saved query. In my case, I quite simply created a query for this particular asset, and make sure you make the query public. Alright, so we're done with Manage. Now we're going to go jump into Health. Go ahead and launch Health. And you're presented with a list of assets, that's fine. But we're going to go right to Scoring. And I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I've already built a scoring group. But you're going to create a new scoring group. Go over here to the right and click Create Group. And give it a name. I'm particularly focused on this one type of asset here, these pumps. So I've already created that group. And what you're going to be building are these 3 different scores. One for health, one for consequence, and one for risk. And you can see here that once I've created the group, I've pointed it to that query that I built. If I go over here to the right-hand side, I can see that. And it has returned that one asset record. In your case, you may have more than one asset record depending on your query. So I'm going to go ahead and open Health here. You would actually come across and click the plus sign to create this scoring group. But I'm going to show you the one that I've built already. I went ahead and I used just the default scoring details. You can edit those as you wish. But you can see down here on the bottom, you have the contributors. In the case of that particular asset, I had a set of meters that are on that asset, and I simply added those meters as contributors for this scoring group. You'll also notice that each of these meters has been weighted. To add contributors to your new scoring group, you come over here to the plus sign, and you're presented with a list. So this is where you're able to choose the different formulas as your contributors, but in our particular case, we are using meters. And so the meters that are defined over in Manage for these assets are now available to you to choose as a contributor. You can see that each one of these meters is actually a formula that is saying go out and get me the meter value for this particular meter. Okay? You would simply add that, and then you would build this list here of your different contributors. Then for each contributor, you're going to want to assign a weighting. So if some of the contributors, some of the meter readings per se, have a higher weighting than others, then you would make that adjustment. The sum of all the contributors, the weighting obviously needs to be 100%. When you're done with that, your contributors for health have been completed, then you would come back and do consequence next. Now, consequence is a bit simpler. It has a slightly different scoring approach here, and you'll notice it has just a single contributor. That single contributor, I am using asset priority. I'm going to go ahead and click on that for you so you can see it. And you'll notice that the asset priority formula that I chose is simply looking at the priority field and coming up with values for it depending upon what those values are. And you can certainly adjust that formula if you would like. Consequence is very straightforward. You'll notice that the weighting for that contributor is 100%. Go back. Your very last scoring setup is the risk. And risk is a mixture of health and consequence. So I'm going to open up risk. And here is a risk formula. Now this risk formula is built into the system. I'll go ahead and click on that so that you can see it. And basically it is doing a comparison between the health values and the criticality values or the consequence values and coming up with an overall risk position. Again, creating that is very simple. You are simply adding a contributor over here on the right hand side, and whether that is a function, whether that is a meter, doesn't matter. You're able to choose it from there. So when you're done with that, you have health and consequence and risk scoring for pumps of this nature. Again, one or more. And then with these active, you're then able to calculate the scores. Okay, so let's go see our results. So now I'm going to go over to assets, and you'll also notice you can also do this whole thing with locations as well. So I'm going to click on assets. I don't have a saved query for the particular assets here in health, so I'm going to go over to the right hand side and I'm going to just hand type that in. There's my asset, and you kind of notice at a high level I already have some results here. And also notice that you can adjust the columns, manage the columns that you see at this level. I'm going to go ahead and open up that asset, and you'll notice that I have some calculations that are already being done. I have remaining useful life, the age, my MRR ratio. I don't have any maintenance against this thing quite yet. You'll notice that I've got some scoring down here for my different contributors. Also notice that there are many sections here that can be opened to see information about this particular asset, but the one that opens by default is asset scores. I'll go ahead and reopen that. You can see the scoring for each of the contributors. If you drill into each one of them, you can see what its current value is. And then if you roll down even further, you're able to see the history of each of those contributors over time. And over on the right-hand side here, you're able to adjust what your time base is. And that's health.